My stepfather claimed to be a war hero, mocking our late father, who actually was one, but real veterans don't appreciate being lied to, and saying you're one is no small thing. I did something pretty big at my mom's husband's 60th birthday recently, and both he and my mother are very upset with me. But my brothers and I honestly don't think we did anything that bad, not compared to what he's been doing all this time. Considering how much he's been lying, I think what we did was practically nothing. Besides, the rest of the family, while they do think the whole drama was unnecessary, don't really believe I did anything truly wrong. So it's hard for me to believe that I'm the one who should apologize in this situation. But well, that's exactly what my mom wants me to think, and right now we're not exactly on good terms. The last few years have been pretty complicated, which doesn't help. Basically, 8 years ago I lost my dad to pancreatic cancer. He had been fighting for a while, even with treatment, there wasn't much hope, and we knew it. So we were somewhat prepared, but it still broke us completely. I have 2 older brothers, I'm the youngest of 3, and I was the closest to our father because I was the little one, so to speak. It hit me especially hard, and I was the one who stayed with my mom. I started working from home to help her out, and for 2 years I stayed to support her as she tried to rebuild her life. But of course, eventually I had to move out, because I was offered a better job. My mom told me I should take it, that it's what my dad would have wanted. Besides, I couldn't stay with her forever. So I accepted the job, moved to another state, and since then, I've come home as often as I can. I always visit for the holidays, and I try to come at least once a month, especially for big events like birthdays and such. My brothers do the same so we can spend time together as a family. We made it a ritual to stay close, because family has always been very important to us. That's something our father taught us, and I thought it was important to my mother too, but right now, I'm not so sure, judging by how she's been behaving. All of this started changing when she began dating her current husband. Let's call him Brad. That was about 2.5 years ago. She introduced him to us when they'd been together for about 4 months, and she told us they were moving in together soon. She also said they'd already talked about getting married eventually, and that she just wanted my brothers and me to start preparing ourselves mentally. Obviously, I wanted my mom to be happy, and if Brad was going to make her happy, then that's what I wanted for her too. The only problem my brothers and I had with the situation was that it felt too fast. They'd only been together a few months and were already talking about moving in and marriage. We tried to tell Mom how we felt, but she said she was getting older, and when it's right, you just know. So she told us not to worry. Fair enough, she's an adult, and we thought she knew what she was doing. So we didn't push it. But little by little, the more we got to know Brad, the more we realized he wasn't the right fit for our family. There was just something off about him from the start. My brothers and I all agreed that he never seemed particularly happy to have us around. After moving in with my mom, he never made much of an effort to get to know us, even though we tried to be friendly. He was distant, cold, and another thing we noticed was that whenever he talked, it was only about himself. He never showed any real interest in what others had to say, not even my mom's. He just came across as extremely arrogant. That was our issue with him, but since our mom seemed happy enough, we kept quiet. Eventually, they got married about a year ago. But after that, things got worse. For some reason, after getting married, Brad started thinking he could make comments about my dad, and that was completely unacceptable for my brothers and me. What's worse, my mother, for reasons I still can't understand, always defended him, even though it was obvious he was constantly trying to belittle our father and make himself look like the better man. Like I said, he'd always been full of himself, but after the wedding, he clearly got too comfortable. I think he started believing that, now that he was part of the family, he could say and do whatever he wanted, and there was nothing we could do about it. So every time we had a family gathering, he would make these strange comments like, "Your father was great, but," and then immediately launch into stories meant to make himself look bigger and better. He did it even more whenever other relatives were around, and honestly, who likes that? Several times, my brothers and I tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, because we didn't want him dragging our dad's memory through the mud. Obviously, this led to arguments with my mom in the past. But she thinks we're overreacting, that we're making a big deal out of nothing. According to her, even if his comments bother us, there's nothing wrong with them. Just to give you some context, both my dad and Brad had supposedly served in the military, or at least that's what Brad claimed. My dad actually was a military veteran, he worked in a K-9 unit, even went out on missions, and was very well respected in his field. As for Brad, he claimed that he had served in the Navy, even saying that he had participated in operations in the Persian Gulf. I had to look some of those up. It's not like I sit around watching the History Channel all day, but he made it sound legit. He'd often tell these elaborate stories about his supposed bravery, how he fought enemy troops, how he saved his own life and the lives of his men. He was a good storyteller, so at first, we didn't really have a reason to doubt him. It's not like we were experts in military history. Still, I had my doubts, because with all his stories about the military, there was never any tangible proof. No uniforms. No medals. Nothing to show from his alleged service. Out of curiosity, when I first met him, I even asked about it, just trying to connect with him, and he told me that he didn't like showing those things because he preferred to stay humble. He also claimed that he suffered from PTSD because of everything he had been through. I mean, I can't really speak to that second part, but humble? Seriously? He said he didn't like showing his military stuff because it was personal and painful. So I stopped asking. But something about it always felt off. And the irony? For someone who supposedly had PTSD and didn't want to talk about his military days, he never seemed to have a problem constantly talking about them, especially if it meant telling the same joke over and over again about being the real veteran of the family. He'd even compare himself to my dad, saying my father only played with dogs and made them lift their paws, while he had gotten his hands dirty for this country. No one actually found those comments funny, but people would give polite, awkward laughs just to keep the peace. My brothers and I never did. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, we were all back home having dinner with some family and friends to celebrate my brother's engagement. Naturally, Brad started talking about himself again, because, well, that's his favorite subject. And this time, he decided to claim he'd received a Bronze Star. Even as a civilian, I know that's a huge deal. And that's when I really started thinking something was seriously wrong. Because with all the stories he's told us over the years, he had never mentioned a Bronze Star before. And if it were true, he'd definitely have bragged about it already. The man loves talking about himself. It felt like he needed to keep inflating his heroic image, and nothing sounds more heroic than a Bronze Star, right? For those who don't know, the Bronze Star is awarded for heroism in combat. It's not something you just casually claim. So, we didn't say anything in the moment, but later I talked to my brothers about it. They agreed it didn't sound right, but they didn't have any solid proof, so they decided to let it go. They didn't want to cause a scene. But for some reason, I couldn't let it go. I don't know why, but that was the final straw for me. A few days later, I decided to call the Veterans Association to check on his records. And guess what I found? Forget about the Bronze Star, there was no record whatsoever of him ever serving in any branch of the military. That wasn't what I expected at all. I mean, his stories were strange, sure, but he even had a veteran ID. His stories might have been exaggerated, but at least I thought he had served at some point, especially since he'd used that ID to get veteran discounts at restaurants and stores. Sometimes we'd go out to eat, and he'd flash that ID for a discount. Even on trips with my mom, he used it at hotels to get better rates. So I thought, okay, maybe he did serve, but he's exaggerating to look better than he really was. Not that the whole thing was a total lie. But the fact that he'd been using this fake status to belittle my father, that is what truly infuriated me. He'd been standing on a fake pedestal, mocking a real veteran, my dad, who'd actually earned his honor. Naturally, I told my brothers immediately. They said we should confront him. But I had a better idea. We were all going back home again in a few days for his 60th birthday party, a big event my mom was planning and hyping up like crazy. So I told my brothers that I wanted to make the announcement there. Because after all these years of him insulting my father and spreading lies, it was time for everyone, especially my mom, to know the truth. He deserved to be exposed. He deserved to be humiliated. So that was my plan, and I went through with it. On the day of his party, I showed up with my brothers, and together we made the announcement. We told everyone what we'd found out. I expected my mom to be shocked, but instead, she looked angry. Angry at me. She said I'd ruined the evening, told my brothers and me to leave immediately, and that we'd already done enough damage. So we left. Later, we heard that most of the guests left too, except for a few of my mom's and Brad's close friends. And yeah, like I said, most of the family thought the whole thing was a bit dramatic and maybe unnecessary, but they didn't think we'd done anything wrong. Which, of course, is something my mom completely disagrees with. But honestly, I don't think we're the only ones tired of Brad's lies. The next day, my mom called my brothers and me to come over and talk things out. It didn't go well. We genuinely expected her to be shocked, to show some kind of outrage at what we'd uncovered. But when we arrived, she seemed completely unsurprised. Brad wasn't home, which was weird, because he's usually always there, retired and playing poker on his computer. We asked where he was, and my mom said he'd decided to stay away while we were there, because we'd humiliated him enough. She said she couldn't even blame him, because we had crossed a line. Then she started lecturing us, saying she'd always known we didn't like Brad, but what we did was an insult to both him and to her. She expected us to apologize publicly to both of them, just as we had publicly embarrassed them. I was stunned. So I asked her why she wasn't more surprised by what we'd told her, why she wasn't reacting to the fact that he'd lied about everything. She got visibly uncomfortable. After some stammering, she finally admitted that she'd always known Brad had never served in the military. That completely floored us. We had thought she was as much in the dark as we were, that she'd just believed his stories or didn't care enough to question them. But she wasn't clueless. She had knowingly let him lie, even while he insulted our father. She started trying to justify it, which only made things worse. Apparently, the reason she helped him keep up the lie was because she thought it would make us respect him more, that if he had a background similar to our father's, we'd feel safer and more comfortable around him. It was beyond insulting. But, as it turned out, it had the exact opposite effect, and for good reason. He was nothing like our dad. He was everything my father hated in people: arrogant, self-absorbed, and worst of all, a liar. It would have been so much easier for everyone if he had just presented himself as who he really is, without trying to tarnish my father's memory. Nobody would have cared that he didn't have a military background. We weren't looking for a replacement for our dad. It's not like if he resembled my father, we'd all start shouting, "Dad, you're back." And definitely not when he went out of his way to disrespect him. My brothers felt betrayed, but for me, it cut even deeper. When my mom admitted she'd known all along and that she was fine with someone insulting our father's legacy, I couldn't handle it. I felt more betrayed than anyone, because I was the one who stayed with her after my dad died, the one who helped her through it. I couldn't believe she would do this, especially to my father's memory. Now, honestly, I don't know what to do. I don't see any possible way that I'm the bad guy here. I don't think I owe anyone an apology, certainly not him. I hate that man. I don't even want to see him again. If he wants to stay away from us, perfect. The problem is, I don't hate my mom. In fact, I feel sorry for her. Something went very wrong along the way, and she's clearly clinging to this man because she's afraid of being alone. My brothers feel the same confusion I do. We're in a horrible situation, because we don't want to lose our mom, but she's made it very clear that unless we apologize to both her and Brad, she's cutting contact with us. According to her, what happened at the party was unforgivable. She doesn't believe she or Brad can't forgive and forget. So moving forward like nothing happened isn't an option, and apologizing isn't either. So here we are, completely stuck. When my dad was dying, he asked the three of us to look after each other, and to take care of Mom. To stay united as a family. I've really tried to honor that promise. That's why we've been so patient, so quiet. Why we've handled everything with as much dignity as we could. We don't want our family to fall apart, and when I say family, I mean us three and Mom. Brad doesn't count. But if my mom no longer cares about Dad's legacy, if she's willing to let someone insult and trample all over it, then I honestly don't know what to say anymore. It breaks my heart, but I might have to cut her out of my life. My brothers feel the same way. We were all there for her, all of us, and still she chose to side with Brad. Deep down, I think she knows what she's doing is wrong. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve happiness, everyone does. But come on, moving on, finding love again, getting remarried, none of that should mean you start disrespecting the person who made you happiest when he was alive. And that's not just my opinion, she herself has said that my dad was the love of her life. So how can she say that and still allow her new husband to say such vile things about him, to invent such ridiculous lies just to make himself look better? Because he's insecure and jealous of someone who isn't even here anymore? I don't understand. It's pathetic. I see no reason why she would want to be with a man like him, or how he could be so important to her that she's willing to throw away her relationship with her children for him. Honestly, I think she's degrading herself by staying with him. If that's her choice, if being with him makes her happy, then she's free to do so, but I'm done. I'm not going to be part of this madness anymore. I've played my part long enough. I stayed silent for too long. It's not fair to me, and it's certainly not fair to my dad. So, out of respect for him, and for myself, I'm stepping away. I'm cutting her out of my life. I can't speak for my brothers, but I'm sure they'll do the same, because they feel exactly as I do. It's going to hurt, I know that, but I honestly don't see what else we could have done. Oh, and something a few people have mentioned, yes, impersonating a veteran and receiving benefits from it is a crime. I don't know how severe it is to scam restaurants and hotels for a few discounts, but the Veterans Center, where some of my dad's old friends are members, already knows about the whole thing. For them, it's deeply offensive, not just because of the benefits he's taken, but because they actually served their country. So I really appreciate all the information people have shared. Without a doubt, if Brad and my mom were expecting an apology, this completely buries that possibility. But after hearing more comments, and talking to some of my dad's old friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years since his passing, I've realized this whole thing is much more serious than it first seemed. Update 2. I don't have much information about Brad's legal troubles. It's only been about 2 weeks since my last update, but I do have some updates on the family front. We haven't had any direct contact with my mother. My brothers and I have only talked among ourselves, and we've been actively avoiding the topic of Mom or what happened. It's still too painful, too raw, to even go there. Mom hasn't tried to reach out either. The last time we spoke was the day after Brad's birthday, when she gave us that ultimatum. Either we apologize publicly to both of them, or we stay out of her life completely. We stayed in our hometown for a couple more days after that, then went back to our lives. Honestly, it's been a relief to have the distraction. But this morning, my older brother called me. He said that last night, Mom sent him a message, apologizing for everything. She said she probably shouldn't have let Brad lie about all those things, and that looking back, she now understands why we might have found it problematic that he made up those stories. Then she added that Brad himself said it was never meant to be a competition with our father, that he never intended for us to take it that way. And all I can say to that is, what complete nonsense. Let's not forget that he constantly made that stupid joke about being the real veteran of the family. If that's not a direct insult toward our dad, then what is? He was clearly implying that he was the better man, because his fake stories about being in combat were supposed to sound more heroic than what my father actually did. Now it's obvious they're just making excuses, trying to twist things to look better instead of taking responsibility. And honestly, it's so disappointing. It's like they genuinely think we're idiots, that we're going to swallow whatever story they feed us. My brother is furious. My other brother, when we told him, was just as disappointed. At this point, we don't even feel angry anymore. Just disappointment. We can't understand how mom thinks any of this is okay. How she can justify it to herself or pretend it's somehow acceptable. She made the same promise we did to Dad, that we'd stay united as a family, no matter what. And this? This is not how you do that. Anyway, my brother called to ask if we should respond to her message. We all said immediately, absolutely not. What could we even say? We don't believe a single word of it. No sane person would buy such a ridiculous excuse. And honestly, I'm too exhausted to keep fighting about this. If she wants to keep making excuses, that's her choice, but expecting us to play along is unfair. I mean, we literally exposed her husband as a liar, and this is what she has to say about it. It's just sad. So we agreed, if she keeps writing to us, or tries to invent more excuses, we'll block her. We're not quite ready to completely cut her off, not yet. There should still be a way for her to reach us in case of an emergency or something serious. But other than that, we're done. Right now, everything feels dark, heavy, and we honestly don't know what comes next. All we can do is hope for the best, because in a situation like this, there really isn't much else left to do. Edit. Yes, it's very likely that the Veterans Association has already begun investigating. We gave them the names of restaurants and hotels where Brad and my mom have used his fake veteran ID to get discounts, so they could look for proof. That might already be catching up with them, which could explain why my mother suddenly seems so desperate to fix things with us now. But there's nothing we can do to stop it. The real veterans take this kind of fraud very seriously. They won't just drop it because we ask nicely. This thing has already taken on a life of its own. And honestly, that's exactly what Brad deserves. I do feel sorry for my mom, though. If she ends up being dragged down with him. Update 3. It's been a month since my last update, and just 2 days ago, my brothers and I received an email from Brad. In it, he declared that he was very disappointed in all of us, because, according to him, we were punishing our mother for something that she supposedly did for our own good. Brad is trying to twist the entire story, acting as if this whole situation happened because he and my mom were just trying to protect us. He insists that we should forgive her because, after all, she's our mother. Seriously? We're not children. We were full-grown adults when Brad came into our lives, so there's no way to spin this as some sort of misguided parenting act. Even if we had been kids, it would still be completely twisted. But since we refused to buy into that ridiculous theory, he seems to think it's appropriate to write us and scold us for unfairly punishing our mom, and that he's disappointed in us. Like we care what he thinks. He's the most irrelevant person in this entire story, and the fact that he believes he has any right to speak to us, or to use our mother as a shield to save himself, is downright insulting. And yes, by the way, he's in serious trouble, which I'll get to in a moment. In his email, he wrote things like, "Your little stunt didn't break me. I'm made of stronger stuff than that. I'm proud of everything I've achieved in life, with or without being a veteran. I'm not going to let you ruin me." Right. If he were really that strong, why invent such elaborate lies in the first place? He went on. "I'm happy with your mom, and she's happy with me. That's all that matters. If you can't deal with the fact that your mother has moved on and built a new life, that's your problem, not ours. I won't let you hurt her anymore." It was honestly laughable. He's trying to play the hero protecting mom card now, which is absurd on so many levels. Something is deeply wrong with this man. I don't know anyone normal who would behave this way and actually believe they're in the right. So whatever. He can say whatever he wants. None of his words mean anything to us anymore. We couldn't care less about the opinion of someone who lied for years just because he's insecure. That email was the final straw. Even though our mother hasn't reached out during this time, we've now completely blocked both of them. After that, we spoke with one of our dad's old friends, and it turns out that the official complaint against Brad has already been filed through the proper channels. They're just waiting for the case resolution now. All the restaurants and hotels where Brad used his fake veteran discount have been notified, and he and my mom are banned from entering those places ever again. The rest of the extended family has also distanced themselves. Everyone's fed up with Brad, his lies, and his endless self-victimization. We have no idea what's happening with our mom at this point, especially after her last message. But there's really nothing more we can do for her. She chose to stand by a liar, so now she can keep him. Update 4. I hope it hasn't been too long since the last update, but honestly, not much has happened besides some minor drama here and there. First off, my brother finally got married. He had his big day recently, without our mother's presence. There was some drama leading up to it, mostly surrounding her divorce, but he made the decision to keep her away from the ceremony. Mom tried to contact us through a different phone number before the wedding, begging us to convince him to invite her, but we said no, and blocked that number too. None of us tried to influence our brother's choice one way or another. It was his wedding, and if he didn't want her there, that was entirely up to him. Now, about the divorce. Our mother officially divorced Brad a few months ago. We don't know all the details, probably for obvious reasons, but we didn't post about it when it happened because we simply didn't have much information. As for Brad, well, he was found guilty a few weeks ago of falsely claiming to be a military veteran to obtain benefits. His sentence includes a fine, community service, and reimbursement to every business he scammed, returning the money he saved through his fake discounts. The judge clearly wanted to make a point. Sure, the amounts were small, a few dollars here and there, but it was still the right thing to do. He was also ordered to make a significant donation to a veterans center. And then, about a week after the sentencing, the veterans from that same center decided to have a little fun. They organized a mock military parade right outside his house, holding signs that called him a liar and even set up a barbecue on the sidewalk. It was honestly hilarious. Some of Dad's friends sent us photos of the whole thing the next day, and it was glorious.